I thought I had a good amount of fresh glue, but oh no. Hello and welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is the Questionable Garage, and I am standing next to what is hopefully going to be a one video series. We have a special visitor in the shop that some of you guys picked up on in our last satellite episode. It was kind of in the background on a 4-post lift sitting there, and that visitor is a 1986 square body C10 long bed. Now I know not everyone loves long beds. I'm partial to them. I think they're kind of cool. Johnny Rev is a long bed, but the reason we have got this truck, it has gone through some things lately, and it has an absolutely amazing story, and I'm a sucker for an amazing story. I got introduced into the truck when my neighbor down the hill, Justin, who does amazing metal work, came up and said, hey, do you think you can maybe take a look at getting this thing running right? Let's just say it went downhill pretty quick. And some of you may ask, why spend a bunch of money on an old truck? Well, honestly, most of you watching here, you understand it. We don't make sound financial decisions, but one of the most important things about a vehicle, 99% of the time, is its story. And when it's Papa's truck, who bought it in 1989, it's an 86, all of his memories tie back to Grandpa driving around in this truck, and then the progress of, life happens. Papa passes away, truck sits a little bit more, Dad passes it on to son, Kevin, who gets it and is wanting to make it right. Well, he got at a point where he had a decently successful business and started the process of getting this truck back on the road, getting the parts ordered, getting good things put into it, having some friends starting to help that unfortunately through life couldn't continue helping, and then came along the mechanic that was going to save the day. And by save the day, I mean rip him off to the tune of $1,500 just in labor. And well, from what I've seen on the surface, there's not a whole lot delivered for that chunk of money. So it is here now for us to make things right. We're going to get Papa's truck running and driving. I say Papa's, Papa. I have a hard time sometimes with W's, but we're gonna get Papa's truck up and running because, what did you beep for, phone? Because this isn't just about Kevin, it's also about his daughter. Because sometimes family figures are so important in life, they carry on a legacy. Papa was called JP. You name your daughter such way that her nickname can be JP to honor her grandfather, and this is her first truck. It's her first vehicle to drive. Now, I guess in theory, we've got like 6-7 years to get it running, but our goal is we're gonna get it done today. None of that's gonna happen with me talking, so let's take a look at what we've got and get started fixing it. Take a look here. And there you go. This thing is really clean underneath. It's got a fresh coat of rebuild black on everything, but the heart of the beast. That is a Blueprint Engines 383 stroker. It is a proper small block. Listen, I'll LS swap anything, but it warms my heart a little bit that we still have a nice vintage small block in this thing. A little bit more period correct and appropriate. But if we get into looking at this thing, if you notice a little bit of yellow there, a little bit of yellow going on here, that is fuel leaking out. Now, the biggest thing, it's just not ever run right. There's a lot to finish on this truck, and we will go over that. It's the punch list of littles. That last 10% of a project to get it finished takes the longest period of time, and it's hard to get started on all of that punch list when your truck just doesn't run right. It fights you no matter what you do. Now, when you buy a Blueprint engine, especially if you buy a complete engine like this was, it comes with its dyno sheet. They run everything on the dyno. It's broken in. It's ready for you to go. But unfortunately, the shops this thing kind of went through for some of the finishing work, everyone thought they could do better. And it's now at a position where that carb isn't happy. Even kind of doing a factory reset where you just go all your screws in, all your things back to normal. It's just not happy. So how are we gonna fix that? Well, let's do a quick little jump cut to me showing you how we're fixing that on the table. Of course, I think precisely one of you might be surprised that I'm removing a carburetor and we're installing a Holley Sniper. It works for the application. Now, I'm not gonna tell you carburetors are bad and can't be made to work great. They really can. I'm just not smart enough for it. The end of the day, where our TBI fuel injection is at, if you just want something you can jump in, turn the key, and it works every time, it's really hard to argue with this kit. And when I say kit, I mean kit. You are able to go on the website, tell it you have this engine, and get everything you need. You're not gonna be guessing, do I have the right fuel fitting? Do I have everything I need to put it together? Because you do. That really is one of the biggest beauties of the kit is, it is literally a kit. You get all of the correct fittings, you get a pressure regulator, you get the correct pre and post filters, you get your fuel pump. Of course, you get the beautiful, we've got ourselves the polished 4-barrel Sniper. And then we come over to the ignition system where we're gonna have timing control. Now that had an HEI distributor, works perfect with most Snipers, but we want control of everything. So that is where we go to the beautiful Holley Sniper EFI billet distributor, monstrous ignition coil, and of course the EFI Hyperspark that's gonna let us again dial in and control all of our ignition timing. No more relying on simple ignition modules and hoping the built-in timing curves and weights of the distributor are gonna do what we want. They're gonna do what we want because we're gonna tell it. We confirm with a timing light that the numbers are numbers, and then it's going to just reliably give it the exact amount of timing we want when we want it. So one other thing I do want to touch on that is one of my kind of favorite features, I'll say, of the new Sniper 2 packages. This right here, the PDM, Power Distribution Module. Now this truck maybe won't have too many problems because it has an entire new wiring harness front to back, but some of the older vehicles, you know, questionable grounds here and there, maybe not, you know, in the best electrical condition. The computers really don't like that, and you're gonna have a lot of problems from that. But what that PDM does is it connects everything Holley goes into it. If you want fan controls, your fuel pumps go into it. The Holley gets all of its power. Everything gets power from that. That's aftermarket. All that connects from the car is battery power, battery ground, and the ignition signal that turn everything else on. So it reduces noise and problems going from an old electrical system. That is what we're gonna put on top of our blueprint side. I kind of dig that exhaust, so. Oh, come on, you can do it, truck. Sad enough. We're not gonna make it run like that anymore. Time to make this thing run as good as it looks. Now again, I have a history where it's just gonna come across like I hate carburetors and everything carburetors. I don't. It's just there's a lot better options now that I'm a much bigger fan of. And there's always a time where it's appropriate to keep the old nice classic, but also you can go to something newer and better. Why wouldn't you? Oh, also something real interesting. I'm gonna regret this. Ow. I realized it can't go full throttle. That's all you get. Well, you can't really see it well, can you? the way that throttle cable was installed, no full throttle. You want to come over here for a second? Can you? No, I don't think you can. All right, back to the battery. Now, it being a TH400, it keeps us from having to worry about a kickdown cable, but we do need to work on the vacuum modulator. And I do know, let me know they were having some problems with the kickdown, not really kicking down, so that'll be something we gotta look into. Yeah, this poor girl's leaking about as much as I am. Fuel to my sweat, that is. I have the crankcase ventilation and the booster on the same line. For some reason in my head, I thought you wanted that separate. I'm surprised at the manual choke. I figured they just would have ran electric, you know? Especially on a full serpentine belt, drive belt setup. And one thing I'll say too, I won't say is right or wrong, is talking with him, he's kind of been wanting to potentially do an EFI system for a long time, but everyone has talked him out of it, which I don't quite get. Alright, up she comes. I'm also curious again, why he just wanted to idle so high if there's a vacuum leak. But again, coming from Blueprint, these things are run through on a dyno and then sealed. Just got fuel wetting going on in there, nothing scary. That goes down to our vacuum modulator. That is our alternator wire. I think it's just a single wire, we'll have to look at that. Also, I grabbed a short screwdriver. Have you ever done that? You're just not thinking all the way ahead in the job? I don't think this has got enough. Oh, well, all right, 1, 2. We want to get pointed roughly there, and we can confirm on our crank pulley. Should have good timing marks. You never know, could be disappointed. Clean up this routing of these wires too a little. Kind of look at it and see how little this thing's been run. That looks really good. Oh, that's the power from the starter to the painless there. I feel like that could be a whole lot prettier. I don't think it really needs to be up there. Good news is it's a stinking Flexolite, so you know they're only razor sharp. Really just grab all too big. Alright, here we go. Now I gotta be super careful with stupid Flexolite. These things are so dangerous. I predict I'm getting cut at least once before this truck's done. Alright, we're about 180 out. And we're pumping fuel. Let me get rags. Calm down there, you overachiever. Alright, that should be getting close. Okay, well, that made it easier. You just make sure you're 100% top dead center on compression. And drop your distributor so it points where you want your number 1 to be, wherever that is. And then you rotate. So, there's a 10-20-40 on the balancer. There's a heavy, deep groove between the 30 and the 40. And that's about what will line up to 0. There we go. There we go. Okay. All's good. So distributor can come out. All right. I've got to compare a couple things off the car, and we'll pick you back up shortly. All right. So I want my wire out the drivers marked where I want number 1 is. This isn't going to stay. Gaskets and the rings are in place. So this will go back on once you're inserted. So you want to keep your tip kind of close to where number 1 is supposed to be. And then she'll rotate down. I got O-rings on the bottom. Maybe you're not supposed to do that on a small block. Well, it wasn't my imagination that distributor was fitting a little bit tighter than expected. And it turns out 2 things. 1, a blueprint block, small block and big block, is not intended to run the O-rings. No big deal. Pulled the O-rings off and it felt just the same. Would not go in at all. So remember, don't force it in, even with a lot of lube. If it's just obviously not gonna go, don't keep going for it. And let me show you what I discovered. So we measure the blueprint distributor here, and that's pretty consistent on all of it, 31.6 to 31.66. Now, this is not saying this part is wrong. It's just Blueprint machines their blocks really tight to not run O-rings, and a distributor match it. So if we come here to our Holley, make sure I'm not on an O-ring. So while that may not seem like much, that's way too much. So as it goes with custom parts, it always seems to happen. They don't just bolt right in. That's okay. What we'll end up doing is we will clean all of our pre-lube off of it, and I will sit and just will run some sandpaper gently around it, make sure we keep it moving so it's a full circle, and we cut it down a little bit closer to the Blueprint's tighter tolerances, so that distributor will drop in there. Now, Blueprint does offer their own distributor. They say just buy that, but I like the Holley package. So just something to look out for if you do have a Blueprint engine. Your hole's a little small. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, some are small, some are big, and, you know, that's the way it goes. All right, if you remember when we did our measurement, the Blueprint distributor shaft is a little bit thinner at the bottom than our new Holley. Again, the Holley being built for the loosey-goosey OEMs. So we're gonna get our lube off of her. Now, you could break this whole thing down, run it in a mill or, you know, a lathe. Or you can do what we're about to do. We're gonna just wrap some sandpaper and work it. We're not looking for tons, so being gentle here will work. You can also tell how it was starting to want to gall going down there, so that's a nice tight, good machining by Blueprint. Let's see how well this works. See how slow our progress is. Slow. Yeah, we got 1/10 of a millimeter to go. We knocked off 2/10 there. So I'm gonna give you guys a time lapse of me sanding a shaft. We might have to turn the oil pump drive a little bit yet, but I feel like maybe yeah, that's oil pump drive, and we need to rotate it one more gear back. It can actually go in and out without too much trouble. place it that way. I don't really have a good point of reference for this bad boy. Pull it out. Seems kind of close. It's big block oil primer. Also works good as an alignment tool. I guess in theory you could do it with a screwdriver, but that just sounds awful. So number one will be where we want. Everything's engaged. I just wish it's a little bit tighter feeling. It's pinching down all right. I measured the shafts before and they were the same length, so I know we're good there. She's down. And one thing you'll notice, that little slot, that's distributor, that's spark 1. And you'll notice we're quite a bit off of that. That's to let the computer be able to do what it needs to with the ignition timing by being that far off. The computer knows that, so it corrects when it fires the distributor. So there's your point. Normally you'd have it right at that mark. So when we're all done, we end up doing a verification where we'll put a timing light on and lock the ignition timing and make sure that, you know, down on our distributor, it's sparking and flashing when we're telling it to. And if not, you can either then in the software make some small changes or just gently move that a little bit. Up to you. Next part, gotta love when little things are tricky just because of different parts. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Jared, why are you removing valve covers when you're doing fuel injection? Well, this thing on a very unhappy carburetor got started and cut off a whole lot. So it's just a simple process. Make sure there's not really gross things going on inside the valve train. Didn't really think there would be, but I wanted to put eyes on it. So you can see we got a nice steel roller, 1.6 ratio. Granted, we could just look at the build sheet. Also, the other reason I'm doing this, because chrome, while shiny, won't get you home. You know what will? Some really nice vintage cast Holley aluminum valve covers. Clearly, that adds 15 horsepower. Plus, I just think it looks really good. It matches a whole lot better the overall look of the engine when it's shiny, 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 shiny. You kind of lose it. But we'll have our headers, nice black. We'll have the aluminum plus polished Sniper right there. There's something else that's going to be there that kind of matches. It's just not there yet. The matte black to the shiny black engine bay. To me, it looks really good. It's going to match everything a whole lot better. I don't know if I'm going to do black plug wires just yet. I don't love the red, but I don't hate the red. The red kind of goes with the Chevy orange. We're going to have the red distributor cap, so we might stick with the red plug wires because color keying your engine, again, is absolutely crucial to making it run. Now, when you're running the cast valve covers, you don't need the spreader bars like you do for a stamped steel. So on a stamped steel, you have these spreader bars, and what that does is if you put all your pressure right here, it would divot down your stamped steel and will actually warp to where this can bow up slightly and you're gonna have an oil leak. So you have this spreader bar that as you tighten down, you push here, the outside here. So that's how you keep from warping it and causing it from having an oil leak, which would be nice. Oil leaks make a mess and start fires. So we're gonna prep the other valve cover, drop it down, and then we will probably drop the Sniper on, start on our fuel system. And then everyone's favorite, wiring. My buddy Josh from Vega Industries always says it always comes down to the wire. Oh yeah, also I need to pull the passenger side header so we can put an O2 sensor in it. I'm torn because it would be a whole lot easier to put it in the exhaust pipe after the merge, but that's borderline too far down the pipe. I'm gonna lift it up and measure it before we 100% commit to either option, but we're definitely not doing driver's side header because that's all of a nightmare to go ahead and install. All right, this is also somewhere where you're going to find everyone has a different way of doing this, and everyone is gonna tell you their way is the only right way. Everyone else is wrong for doing it however they want. I'm not gonna tell you that. This is how I do cork gaskets on old small blocks, cast iron heads, aluminum heads, and I've had good luck with it. So, you know, if you try it and it goes wrong, I'm sorry. It's worked well for me. But before putting and gluing the gasket in place, I use, it's basically Indian shellac from the old Indian motorcycles, Permatex Gasket 1, Av 1 are the several different names. It's brown and incredibly tacky. Now there is red gasket tack. That does a decent job, but I've had way better luck with the shellac Indian Permatex 1. That works a lot better for me. And you're generally able to find it in a parts store, or Summit has a really big tub of it. Just be careful if you knock it over. If you get it on your hands, it stains, it sticks. Like if you get it on, clean very quickly. So we set that on, let it air up 1 second, and then you pull out your gasket and drop it down. And it's that simple. Then on the head side, around the bolt holes, I'll do just a little bit of standard silicone, FIPG form in place gasket. It's got a bunch of different names, ultra black, gray, Honda Bond. Pick your flavor and poison when it comes to that. I'm not gonna tell you which one's better or not better. Just make sure you're using an oil rated one, not a coolant rated one or anything like that. A little bit around your bolt holes where those land, let that all set up and then torque it down. But remember, you're not sending this thing to the moon. It's just a little bit of snug. You got a cork gasket there. Now, if you're using a rubber gasket, a little bit around the threads, otherwise no sealant top or bottom. So Jared's tips on sealing a cork valve cover gasket. Everyone has their own way. As they say, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. I don't get that phrase, but I've never skinned a cat, but I have glued several valve covers on. So I'm gonna set that gasket, get it on there, and we're just gonna keep on plucking away. Also, I set the Sniper down to check my stud lengths. They're too long. It's not every day you get lucky. So here's a brand new fuel tank. I've confirmed all new senders. Everything is good in there. And it being a saddle tank, they come over. You've got vent lines, you've got your feed line, and then they run up to the front. A lot of times, and what I do is when you run the Sniper fuel system, is you run a new 3/8 Earl's evap guard that you get with the kit to the front as your feed, and then you can use the factory return for the return line, because that is usually at minimum a 5/16, a lot of times a 3/8 on the return. If it's a 5/16 feed line, you don't want to try to push your fuel through it. It'll get there, but generally you want a 3/8 feed for your EFI. Well, we've got technically a 3/8 feed. This is a deleted emissions line. It's just cut off in the front. So I pulled this down and blew into it, and it blows nice and clear on top, and I've confirmed via pictures that's a suitable fuel return. This is our feed from the tank. So what we'll do is we're gonna disconnect right there, go to a rubber line, go to our pre-filter, mount our fuel filter right here, post filter, and run that line all the way up, secure it into the factory hard lines. And then this, with a new bit of hose, is gonna end up connecting here to our old feed, and that's where we're gonna connect the return off the regulator up front. So it's a way for us to kind of simplify routing a little bit. It's not gonna make it easy. You still have to make sure everything inside the tank is gonna be good and do what you need to. But again, we're lucky that that's a brand new fuel tank with new sending units. So we know that half of it's good. We just need to connect our lines on this side. Also, our O2 sensor. Ideally, you want to go 8-ish inches from the collection so that all of the exhaust gases have time to mix, and that's not going to happen here. It happens about here. So a little bit easier. I mean, it's all one piece going through there, but we don't have to worry about pulling a header. We're just going to drop this down, triple check that that is a full sealed weld, and then get our sensor mounted up on top. Then that's pretty much the hard work of the EFI swap. Then we got to do all the wiring, make a ignition coil because this used to have an HEI distributor. Fire this baby up again. And you look underneath, there's been effort to make this a really nice truck. It's just unfortunately, you know, some of the guys have missed the mark on getting all the mechanicals dialed in perfect. We're gonna make that a little bit better. Well, remember when I said we were just gonna tap into all the existing lines? Something didn't feel right about it, so we're gonna drop the fuel tank and pull that sender, which I'm actually happy about because we don't have, I'm not 100% what kind of hose they've got on here. It's reinforced like it could be for fuel, but honestly, if it's like the fuel line up front, it's not. You know, sometimes you get that bubble in your gut that says something's wrong, take it apart, and then sometimes that bubble in your gut was just a bad taco. This time it's a bad fuel line. It all goes back to gas though. So I'm gonna try to avoid having to drop this all the way because on the four-post, well, all the way, it's completely out, but not get it on the floor. And I think I can do that. I think I got enough clearance in the top. I just kind of have to work a little blind on that lock retaining ring. So we'll get that thing out, set it on the bench, confirm my ins and outs. I may leave the rollover valve and not use that as my return, and we'll drill it and put the bulkhead fitting that comes with the Holley kit, just so we don't have any return problems. Because I've seen it before. If you have any restriction on the return line post regulator, it creates all kinds of havoc. So do it right or don't do it at all. Right-ish counts too, you know, like just make sure you're in the neighborhood of correct. Do it that way. Well, I can tell you why his gas gauge wasn't working. Aside from that questionable fuel hose and just everything else, he kind of sent over the history of the truck so that way I could share it. You know, we're working a little out of order. Technically, that intro with the history of Papa's truck here, well, that I just got that email. Given the description of the person who did a lot of the work on this truck, I really needed to look inside this fuel tank. And one thing he noticed was the fuel gauge didn't work. Well, if you don't install the sender's electronics, this has two options. One has the ribbon. One is for a little low-level float that dangly wire would go to. Well, if when you put it together, you put it on the wrong part, that fuel gauge isn't going to work too well. So one thing I'm also noticing is with correct fuel hose, like again, look how much that's collapsed, and this thing has not really done any work. I also appreciate the rust in that one. That return will indeed be good enough. We're just going to get good rubber on it. I was contemplating putting in the full-blown sending unit piece, but ample size. We're going to get rid of that restriction, so that way fuel is going to return in correctly. All of this will work perfect once it's put back together correctly. So that's what we're going to do now, and then we will get that fuel tank back in and get back on track. Well, all right, I've made some progress. I wasn't time-lapsing it because it was all stuff you couldn't see. It's basically my hands. So what have we done? Fuel pump now is fully mounted. We have got the soft line, the new feed, running to the front. I'm actually right now printing out a little bracket so this can sit nice and flush. We're also doing the same for our primary filter. It's gonna live round about there. And again, nice little bracket we got printing right now. But you'll notice, no more fuel tank. No matter how hard I tried to get that ring back on, it wouldn't. I found out why. The guy who put it together for a lot of money shouldn't be doing this at all. That fuel ring came off without much difficulty, and the reason it won't go on is it is so mangled and bent. The first time they put a full tank of gas in, it would have just poured out. So picking up a new lock ring, potentially a sender. I'm not sure if I can get the style of sender I want in a reasonable time frame, and the sender is okay. It just needs an O-ring and new lock ring. Come up along the front, we got that exhaust pipe out. I'll show you that in a second. One thing else I'm also noticing is we're gonna get the trans lines tied up a little bit nicer. Gotta get our fuel line stored. But if you look, oh, there you go. Our header's making contact, so we can trim an 1/8 inch right here off the frame. We're not gonna lose any structural integrity, and we're gonna gain a whole lot. Also, another thing we'll do is I'm gonna come in with some heat foil, an actual heat shield. We're gonna put that and cap over the frame, since we have both transmission cooler and fuel lines running through there. You don't want that getting too hot, you know. Not the best for things. Also, we still got to pull the fuel line or the power line, remake all of that. The more you look at it, the more I realize there's a lot to fix on this thing, but we're gonna get it right so that way it can go down the roads and Papa will be proud of his truck running along. I think I showed you guys this already. We're gonna need to move our sway bar forward. It's just a matter of re-drilling some new holes because that's not a good angle. Also, that's not a good angle. I mean, we're not hitting anything over here really, but you know, we'll get that situated and working right too. But now I gotta run for parts because I am gonna remake the plug wires. I need that sending unit and a throttle cable. Well, this was the part of the morning that I was supposed to open up and pull out a really nice fuel filter holders, and I printed out some fuel line clamps. I'm running low on filament, but I thought I had a good amount of fresh glue, but oh no. So the glue got messed up. This got stuck. I even got the time lapse of that happening, of it just shoving everything around. So instead of throwing parts on, I've got hours, maybe an hour or two, and I hope it all comes apart. There's a chance I'm having to buy a lot of parts, so we'll pull off some covers. I'll run some heat and see what we can do. out of it. Just cross your fingers. Fresh glue down. Only 5.5 hours to go. I kind of wanted the parts to start today in case I wanted to drop something else. I would have had plenty of options if I didn't have a 3D printer, but once you have a 3D printer, everything's a 3D printer problem. And sometimes it's the problem. To show this little bit of progress. Mechanical fuel pump block off. First time touching a small block Chevy and you're going electric pump, make sure if you remove your pump, you pull your plate off and you pull your fuel pump push rod. Otherwise that thing's gonna bounce around in the back there. It's gonna sound like an engine knock. Not a good time. Let's just take it off. Boom. O'Reilly has the Mr. Gasket block off plate there on the shelf. I think 14 bucks. And it's chrome, see? Chrome. That's 10 horsepower right there. Just in the chrome. As you can tell, I'm a little bit warm. You know, we've got fans moving, but I was jumping inside and outside of the car, and that's what I thought was a pretty cool shot for you guys, but I don't know why. Apple apparently now when you get a message while recording, it just nothing ever happened. Your video is gone. So we're working on our throttle cable right now. We're trying to get it so that way, you know, when you smash the pedal, things will happen. So we've got that Mr. Gasket kit. Real simple way with that big black plastic snapping piece. When you go to these style throttle cables, fender washers. Fills the hole. Looks really nice and clean, but make sure you get stainless. Even though you see the black oxide coated ones, in theory, they won't rust. They almost always eventually do. And the black oxide coated ones were 97 cents each, but the stainless were 95. Go figure. So we've got it mounted in there. We've got the actual cable outside. This is just the lining left behind here. We've got our adapter mounted into there. So now you need to take a look and see what you need to cut. I mean, you could loop and do all kinds of stuff, but we can get a relatively smooth S-bend right over that's not going to cause us any problems. This is tricky because you only get to cut it once. I mean, I guess you could cut it long and cut it a little bit shorter, but get it lined up where you think you need, get a black Sharpie, and then go ahead and cut it. I've seen people use hacksaws. You're going to get potential frays with that. I'm a big fan of a cutoff wheel for it, and then you can take a drill bit, get it hot, and kind of poke if there's any obstruction in the inner lining of your cable. All right, so we've got our cable on. Now, when you're cutting the inner actual cable part, remember, this is hollow. It will go through it. What I like to do is set this with just about, a little over 1/8 of an inch engagement. So that way the cable will stretch a little bit over time and you can take up that slack. You also have a little bit of adjustment still by loosening that jam nut or the stopper set screw and moving it on the cable. So we've got it all together. And if you remember before with that original cable, if you went to go full throttle, it jammed up and couldn't do it. But we've got full party mode. The trick is, will pushing the pedal give us full party mode? You guys holler and let me know if I can find a way for you guys to watch. You sick yet? Okay. That, right? Come on, handheld tripod. You can do this. No. Yeah. Now, how about that? That works. Let me know if we hit party mode, guys. Didn't do it? I can't quite tell from the line, but it looks like maybe. You're not being loud enough. Is that full throttle? So did we do it? I couldn't hear you. I'll have to look at the tape, but that is throttle cable done and done correctly. Now, I say we move on to getting our PDM ignition box mounted, and then for our ignition coil, actually getting it mounted with more than just screws. So that's the next step. We're gonna do this thing right. I'll be honest, a lot of this truck is frustrating me just knowing the unfortunate history of it, of the owner trying to get it done right and paying a lot of money. A lot of money, and very few things legitimately get me more angry than a crooked shop. So thankfully we're in a position to try to fix that. So on to finalizing wiring positions, and we will talk through the process of getting those mounted nice and clean and mostly professional. Alrighty, so this is our PDM module. We talked about it briefly before. This is what connects to the battery, connects to the truck, and then everything Holley connects to it. Our fuel pump, our ignition box right here, everything is gonna live to it. It's got 4 mounts. Now, if you're mounting this on a truck or a car that's gonna drive a ton and see a ton of rain, getting it up higher would be good. This truck, while capable of driving in the rain, isn't gonna see it a lot. Now, this does have weather seals to help keep moisture out. We've got our directions determined. Down here, it's gonna help us keep a lot of our wiring clean. So you could self-tap this down, not a problem. We're doing everything a little bit extra. So we're gonna do nut certs for all of this. So we're gonna transfer our holes, remove it, drill through, install our nut cert, bolt it down, and do that for our other 2 components as well. Now, something I really need to get, I don't know if you guys have seen them. They're these like markers that line up with your hole, and it like spits a little colored shot down, so it helps transfer your holes a little bit better. I saw it, thought it was one of the coolest things ever, and then I keep just not ordering it. So maybe one of these days I'll finally, order one. Okay. And we grab the bolts we're using to just drop through. I suppose you could nut and bolt this. That would be pretty clean as well. All right, so now that comes up and away. So this is what we're installing. Rib nut cert. It's a rivet with threads. So we'll open the hole up to accept this size, then we'll come back with our tool and install it just like a rivet. This project has definitely kind of turned into one of those. It could have been really simple and easy, done with a day. But I just kind of want to go extra, given everything, the family, the truck, it's kind of been through to get to this point. So now, you see, pull it like a rivet, lock it down. Just your tension. There's a lot of little intricacies. Probably one of the hardest things is to remember not to go too crazy on this, especially when it's, a 1032 thread. Nice and easy. And it's going to make a really clean install when we're all done with it. Now, I needed a bunch of these quick in this size, and like the most economical option was old Jungle Face. It was an 800 piece kit. They included 300 632 nut certs. I don't know how often anyone ever uses that particular size. I've got 300 of them now. We're only going to run 3 bolts on the ignition box. It's going to be fine. This is not like a modern or an older 6A or 6AL box that weighs pounds. This thing's very lightweight, so 3 really good rigid mounting points are going to cut it for us. You get the point. It's knock in 3 more nut certs, and we'll get those parts bolted on, and then I'll give you an update on where everything stands. Well, all right, let's show you some of the positive things. That's what we got to keep doing with this project. It's really hard when you get in behind someone else. Now, there's no excuse. Someone was paid money for a lot of this work, and it's not good, but we're doing our best. So, again, going back to our Sniper install and why I absolutely love this new PDM box. So, all of our ignition wires will end up dropping there. I don't have the right terminals I want. You can just shove the wire underneath. Totally acceptable. There's a spade style connector that I prefer that we're gonna get, but all your power, ground, point signals go in there from your Sniper. Again, your power, ground, switch, all of that comes into here. The fuel pump will feed off of here. You got those 2 wires that run up there, and then we will have 1 ignition switched wire going into there. Lets you make a really, really nice, clean, simple install and keep an engine bay looking good and make sure your computer is happy. Now, this truck has all new wiring. Not gonna say it's installed right, but it has it. So in theory, we shouldn't have too much electrical noise problems, but it's never a bad idea. I'm at the point I need to hit order on some stuff. I'm also at the point that I needed to kind of take half a day and cool off. It sounds really stupid, but I'm getting frustrated with this. Not one thing has gone right, and almost all of it is related to some previous work. I was trying to bolt on valve covers. There was no reason to remove blueprint valve covers, but was running into lots of problems. Decided I was going to upgrade to studs just because the threads felt a little questionable, and studs fix it. Well, that one there, I'm going to have to helicoil it, which is not an easy thing to do at any point, let alone on car. And then what I keep finding underneath, and just, if he said $1,500, it would probably make a lot more sense, but the fact that there's a 0 behind it and someone felt okay doing this, I don't know. If you guys have seen a lot of my videos, you know this is kind of accelerated, peeved Jared. I'm usually pretty calm, cool, collected, and just keep a smile, but man, we'll wait for a grand reveal until when we're done. It was supposed to start today. It was supposed to do a lot of things, but I just keep finding lots of problems, and we're gonna fix it. In the YouTube world, most people, you just rush through, brush it under the rug. I could have made it start, but we're gonna fix it right, because that's what the truck deserves, it's what the story deserves, and hopefully you guys appreciate not just rushing through. I'm 3 wires and we could make this thing make noise, but there's no point in rushing it. So I need to go down, meet up with Kevin, and pick up our interior and some of the rest of the parts, so that way episode 2 on our OBS, I'm not witty right now. I'm properly angry inside. I was gonna try to come up with a funny scam BS, or I don't know, but it's gonna be an amazing truck when it's done. We are gonna get it there, and this is not gonna be a questionable build, aside from the fact we built it here on the Questionable channel, or fixed it here on the Questionable Garage. So I like giving you guys weekly videos. It also keeps me accountable. So I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna hit order on some stuff, I'm gonna send Dwayne some footage, and we'll see where we end up. And then hopefully next week or the following week, we're gonna have the video of this thing going down the road. I've got 13 things that need to be done right now, and it's just me. And what was meant to be 2 days is gonna go on a week and a half, but that's cars. It really is. So don't worry, we got your blueprint. We're gonna make that right. I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices and charge a fair rate for the work you can do. Understand if you're worth a dime and not $1. We'll see you next time.